Welcome back to CEO Zones, Meet the Speaker Series, where we focus on whole life success because being a chief executive is just one part of the powerful life journey. Meet the Speaker Series enlightens CEOs and professional directors, our audience of keynote speakers, authors, and subject matter experts that I believe are currently serving CEOs with 1 billion plus in annual revenues with excellence. I'm Bill Forster, and today we're going to take a deep dive into the art of career development and career navigation and the power of surrounding yourself with the right people. My guest, Pete Schramm, is the absolute expert in connection, mentorship, and unlocking professional potential. He's the CEO of Latitude, a platform dedicating to fostering meaningful connections and employee retention, and I would even go as far to say employee engagement. He's also the host and author of a series called Pathfinders. His book, Pathfinders, Navigating Your Career Map and Your Professional Brand of Advisors. And we are already tired of me, audience. Let's get right to welcome to Pete. How are you today, Pete?
Hey, Bill, doing great. Hello, everybody, and happy, depending when you're watching this or listening to this, Thanksgiving, holidays, all of them. Have a great day.
Excellent. So I want to jump right in. The audience could care less about hearing and seeing me because my face for radio is already too far. So in any event, you've had a tremendous career success within Lockheed Martin before founding your own company. And I would like to go back and kind of think of, so now you're in career navigation, career development, you've made a career out of it, and started your own company, and you have an enterprise company for CEOs in that billion and up revenue. Where did you see yourself looking backwards where there was that rocket booster moment where you said, I'm a mechanical engineer, I'm making things for Lockheed Martin, and if you care to go deeper there, I don't want to do anything unconfidential there, but you were making some pretty serious stuff. Where did you change your mind? What happened that was a rocket booster for you? No pun intended.
Yeah, so have worked on some rocket projects. Mostly they were standoff threat detection systems and other things that had rockets inside of them. One quick plug is if you've seen the new Top Gun movie, there's a bunch of cool technology in there
Okay.
that is used, and I could tell you quite a bit about a fair few things in there. But it absolutely changed my life. There's kind of two aha moments for me, and then one rocket booster moment. The
Okay.
first one comes when I was growing up on the farm in Western PA, and my parents said, "Hey, our purpose here is to better the lives of others." The second one, and I'm like, okay, well, what does that mean? The second one came whenever I transferred from public high school to a private high school at Swickley Academy, and it opened up my mind and my eyes and totally widened the aperture to what is possible. People are working on projects like flying airplanes in high school. They're building businesses while they're in high school. Their parents are selling businesses for hundreds of millions of dollars. Some of those folks became mentors along the way. And so it's an aha moment that there's so much more out there than just graduating and going back to the farm. The
Right.
biggest rocket ship moment for me was whenever I got into my first role at Lockheed, and I asked my boss and I said, "Hey, how can I be the best employee you ever had?" Right, a little bit of overachiever, that athletic background, and mechanical engineering mindset. Give me a little bit of a process. Come on, if I want to get to here, then I need to do this and this and this. And the advice he gave me was go find a mentor. And I said, okay, well, if one's good, a couple are probably better. But what the heck does this mean? Where do I find them? What do we talk about? How does this process go? And so it was through some trial and error over those next 4 or 5 years. So that rocket ship moment lasted multiple years, but that's where the thrust was initially ignited and sparked.
Very cool. I don't know why I decided to ask you that question, but there you go. It's my show, even though you're the important guest, and our audience of CEOs and professional directors is interested in learning more about you to be a keynote speaker, possibly buy some of your books, and then find out what in the world Latitude is, the company that does work with those types of people. So, second question, how would you define professional success from where you are and where you think you're going to go currently? What's professional success for you?
So I'm going to talk about it from a leadership perspective, and then I'm going to talk about it on this stage as a speaker perspective.
Okay.
Let's talk about a leadership first. Keep it super simple. I am successful when I'm able to help develop and create and guide leaders that can then create and guide and develop other leaders. Whenever we're able to instill that training and guidance and support to others that are then able to pay it forward, we've been able to do it. A personal mission of mine is to help positively influence and guide 100 million people's career development journeys before the end of 2030. That's approximately 1% of the population. And we think that they'll have access to internet, whether it's with the software, with the book, with some of these tools and tips and themes and concepts. But 100 million people before the end of 2030. I used to say, Bill, it was just in 2030, but I'm going to give myself a little bit of leeway there. That's on the leadership side. And then whenever we think about the speaker side, I think about two aspects of it. Whenever people are getting their phone out and they're taking pictures of concepts or ideas that you have up on the slide, and whenever they come by to ask you questions afterwards or send you a message and say, hey, thanks. If I'm able to instill hope and ignite that bit of potential, people say, like, "Ah, man, I got a shot at this. There is a chance for me." And that's from the individual contributor side that's climbing up that ladder and figuring out their path. And then also from the chief executive level, from that C suite perspective. And they say, duh, of course we can do this for our people. It doesn't have to be so complex. And then they oftentimes say, geez, this was kind of cool for me to do a little bit of a refresher myself.
Hmm. Very good. I like that. You made me think of one of our mutual friends, Mark Sanborn, whose book "You Don't Need a Title to Be a Leader" gets into the whole concept of leaders developing leaders. And our mutual friends at Chick-fil-A corporate, that's what they started to do. The minute Kathy had employee number one, was he was a leader developing leaders way back in the 1940s all the way through to today, where his grandson Andrew is now leading Chick-fil-A, which I think I heard a rumor that they have over 400,000 employees now, something like
Is
that.
that
So
right?
pretty big number. I can't verify that one, but it was a pretty big number. So, so getting into Pathfinders, your book, which is beautiful green, I dressed it up a bit and put the
Oh,
CEO
wow.
Zone's bookmarker in it. I use yours for different books that I'm reading. So I didn't throw yours away, but I dressed it up a bit, right? So in any event, let's dive into the book just for a minute for a couple segments or a couple questions here. But the concept of personal board of advisors, why is that so critical for a professional? Actually, it's critical for anybody, but I'll keep
Yeah.
it to the professional world. Why is that so critical?
Yeah, so let's think about organizations, right? They have typically a board of directors, board of trustees, board of advisors for accountability, growth, support, guidance, and it helps them grow. And if they have a good board, they're probably going to head in a better trajectory.
Mhm.
Those boards are guiding the leader, but not oftentimes not doing the work.
Right.
So if this paradigm and structure works for organizations to succeed, why don't we do something similar to this for individuals in the workplace? Structure, guidance, accountability, and growth. So, surrounding ourselves with a couple of those different guides to diversify the insight, perspectives, and experiences,
Hmm.
totally fantastic. And whenever we couple some of the other concepts from the book together, now I have an idea of the who, what, when, where, how, and we have to figure out our own why as we're going through this. The last piece that I'd share on that, Bill, is if you're my mentor, only one mentor, like most mentorship programs are, that could be absolutely fantastic. I can learn a lot from you, but it's only Bill's lived experiences. And
Right.
so whenever we're able to have somebody like a Gary, a Bill, an Alex, a Jim, a Mark, for example, then we're able to bounce ideas off of a few individuals to figure out, hey, I like what you said. Maybe I hear it in a slightly different perspective from somebody else. And
Yeah.
so it's a way for us to find not only a path, but the right path that will continue to change. And so consistently staying on the right path and having the optionality going forward.
Great. Recognizing our audience as CEOs and professional directors, I want to kind of jump past some of the core of the book and
Yeah.
jump into what's in it for them, because they might be thinking, well, great, I give my people all these, I invest all these investment tools into making them have a better life. What's in it for the shareholders? What's in it for me? So around the retention crisis, how does that challenge of retaining great talent, attracting great talent, what's your approach to that, and how does Latitude potentially give benefit to that?
Well, let's just highlight that issue and that pain point a little bit more. This
Sure.
is a problem. It's been an issue that's been an area for opportunity. I wrote down 7 stats that I'm going to share real quick. And so folks can listen in and say, hey, where am I in comparison to that at my organization? But the Sparks notes, the bottom line up front is, hey, how can we do more? With the people that we have, increase productivity, increase profitability, reduce turnover, unwanted turnover. That's what we want to reduce. And how can we increase the development and output and retention of our hypos? That's really where we're focusing on so we can do more with the organization. This with the facts and stats here, Bill. Only 31% of the U.S. workforce is engaged. So if you have more than 3 out of 10 folks that are showing up, excited, like what they're doing, engaged, interacting with others, you're better than the national average. About half of full time workers say they're likely to search for a new job in the next 12 months. And whenever you ask that question on an engagement survey, it's extremely telling. Well, you might say, hey, why are they typically leaving? Great question, Bill. Since 2010, Work Institute's been putting a report out and says one of the top reasons for people voluntarily departing is lack of career and development opportunities. So if we're able to put that in place for them early on, gosh, wouldn't that be fantastic? Well, what if we just asked our managers? Well, the other bit of research from a large U.S. survey is shown in CFO magazine says that about 46% of managers don't really know how to guide their people through this. So if we're thinking about this from a C-suite perspective, let's make sure we're training that core and mid-level management instead of just saying, hey, go and do this. We might have to give them some guidance to be able to then give some guidance. Promotions are slowing down in about 10 out of 11 industries. So whenever we think about this career development journey, how can we talk about it in 5 dimensions? So it's not just a increase in pay, increase in title every single year. On the winning side, formal mentoring programs show an increase of retention by 72% for mentees and just about the same amount for mentors. So we're going to keep our people longer on both sides of that paradigm. And then the last one is LinkedIn does a lot of research around this, and they said 94% of employees say they'd stay longer if we gave them some ideas for career development and mapping. So that's really the so what, the why, the value, the outcome, the benefits is our people are going to be able to get more done. They're going to have a stronger sense of belonging and purpose, and they're going to be able to grow. And it's also the right thing to do. So the organization makes money. And the last piece on that, Bill, is when's the last time you left work in a bad mood? And did that ever translate to home? And you're not in such a great state of mind. Well, what if we were in a little bit, it doesn't have to be amazing, rainbows and butterflies every single day, but just a little bit better mood, feeling that sense of connection, purpose, value, belonging at work, and we can create healthier people on the inside and the outside.
And they wouldn't kick the cat when they get home and then start the next day with the cat mad at them and kick the cat on the way to work. So yeah, that's a Zig Ziglar from before you were born. But anyway, okay. When you get old and you kind of remember things. That's the crap that comes out of my face for radio. All right. So your book Pathfinders really digs deep into the concept of setting up my own personal board. Maybe I
Yeah.
should put it up there closer, let everybody get a shot of that. It's on Amazon. You can find it ceozones.com. Go to the content partner page. You'll see Pete's beautiful picture. I don't think he has headphones on in that picture. And it's certainly a current picture, which we liked. So, all right. So let's go back to building that personal board. Even I know CEOs of, and I'll even say 10 billion and up revenue, who have their corporate board of directors,
Mhm.
their executive team, who should be coaching and mentoring and challenging the CEO if the CEO allows that, which is a whole other problem we're not going to get into today. But then I know good CEOs who also have an external to both of those parties,
Mhm.
kind of a personal advisory. So thinking of the CEO, a professional director who also interacts with personal directors, not necessarily one particular client corporation, if you will. Uh, how do they start to build that personal board?
Yeah. So whenever we think about this at that specific level, I think leverage CEO zones, leverage the community. Plain
Mm,
and simple, plug for Bill, plug for everything that's been growing and coming together over here. And specifically, what does that mean? Let's think about a couple of those potential board seats, right? Find somebody that's been in your shoes before, in your position, preferably in your industry. We'd call them a functional mentor, right? Somebody that maybe they're a couple years ahead of us. Second one that we're going to try and find is a cross functional mentor. They've had a different path than you, they're in a different industry, they've worked for different leaders. And if you think about it, you're very technical in your background as you've climbed to the C suite. Maybe they were more sales and marketing oriented. Maybe they came up through the legal side or supply chain or operations, something else in that regard. Also, think about your ally role. There's about 20 different kinds of diversity that I talk about in the book. And this is somebody who we don't know what we don't know, and they're going to help us see things from a different perspective. The icon, I have different icons for each of the board seats, and you see the
right.
binoculars on there is for the ally. So seeing things from a different perspective, so we don't get sideswiped by diversity. There it is. Yep, you got it. The next one is our accountability partner, or sometimes you might call it an accountability buddy. This is when we have
Say that
five
again. Sorry.
accountability buddy.
Accountability. Okay, fine.
Say
Yep.
that five times fast.
No, I can't.
Um, and so whenever we think about the career map for ourselves and for others, five dimensions, right? The position, job, title, role is one. Skills is number two. Education and certifications three. Achievements and accomplishments four. And then the fun stuff is five. That accountability buddy works in column five and then goes from right to left. Just checking in on you for you. Social isolation and loneliness, especially as we keep climbing that corporate ladder, is
Hmm.
a real thing. And what is it? One of the biggest killers in the C-suite is heart attacks and stress. And so, what if we were able to check in on some of our friends, our pals, our colleagues, our peer advisors in this community and network, and
Hmm.
say, hey, we know we got a lot of work stuff going on. What are you doing for you?
Exactly.
And start there. That's just four out of the 10 roles, but I think that's a very helpful place to start. I'll add one bonus one in there. That way we cover half of the PBA. Um, this is our advocate, right? Somebody that is our super connector and building bridges. And you're probably on a lot of people's personal boards of advisors, Bill, because you are such a fantastic connector. So that'd be the one, two, three, four, five that I'd suggest as a starting point to begin diversifying that insight, guidance, and insight that we're sharing.
Well, thank you for the surprise commercial for CEO Zones, our online community. You took me by surprise there. We hadn't even given that a thought, but thank you so much. Appreciate that. I have an idea we might see that in a different format soon. Um, so So now we want to talk about latitude for a couple minutes. So the CEO, the professional board, they're saying, great, we understand we have a retention problem, an attraction problem, uh, challenge possibly is a better word. What does latitude do for the individual that turns around being the big benefit for the shareholder? Can we go kind of full loop there?
Yeah, definitely. And I put together a couple of notes around um, dollars so that we can show a return on investment,
Okay.
right? So far, we've talked about this concept of putting together a map to growth, visualizing where I've been, where I'm at, where do I want to go. Okay, super helpful. That's checking the box for one of the biggest reasons that people leave. Okay, second piece that we talked about was having multiple guides and mentors. We know that's going to increase retention. When we couple those together, now I have an idea of where I can go and I feel more connected. That's the secret sauce. And can you do this without technology? Sure, you can. But who doesn't love a good, well, speaking as engineer myself, right? Who doesn't love a good process? And wouldn't it be nice if we could report and show progress and the actual return and the wins? And oh, by the way, whenever we talk about these great wins and the cool things that our organization is doing for our people, that is a magnet like you would, well, you would believe, but it's one of the best magnets is whenever we can talk about that internal growth and development and connection and opportunity inside our organization. So the real quick equation and flow is engage the people we have so we can retain them, brag about it so we can attract great talent to the organization. Now let's look at the numbers here real quick. So if we think about organization has 500 employees, we'll keep it small. Turnover cost is about 50% of an annual salary. About 13% of our workforce is voluntarily departing each year, average salary 90K. If we're able to reduce this regrettable turnover by just 4%, 5%, we're not going to fix all of that. We are able to more than pay for the cost of the software. So we think about that and say, hey, we can just save a handful of folks from departing. Boom, it's paid for in that regard. Now, what happens to the folks that didn't leave? They've been with the organization longer. They're likely to find other opportunities. So then we're not having that strain put on everybody else with those open opportunities, right? Not spreading them as thin, not burning them out as much. We're able to grow, and the talent acquisition team is able to spend time in other areas working in those parts. Oh, and then we have those more great success stories to talk about for attracting other talent. Culture's good, belonging's good, engagement goes up. We don't have the loss of continuity as we're going through there. So those are just some of the first pieces whenever we look at this.
So you mentioned employees of 500, but how would you say your business scales? What's the minimum number of employees for a CEO to have to really get some good ROI traction? Now, ROIs financially
Yeah,
might not be the EBITDA driver. It's all the culture improvement, the individual engagement, the attraction that you can't put a number on. So let's what's the metrics for the CEO when they're looking at all the benefits, and what's the size, like your smallest client or
yeah,
your potential, and then maybe you have a big one that you would mention. Maybe you
yeah.
can,
So
might not be able to by name, but however size works. Yeah.
what we found in our research and our work over the last 5 to 7 years, Bill, is that 100 plus people in the platform in the program
Hmm.
statistically gives the best opportunity for matches. So 100 participants and up. So I'd say company size, couple hundred employees, give us those 100 to put through this program. Engagement survey, personality assessment, mentor match assessment, building those career maps, and then connecting the different people together to build the board, right? So that's the piece. As we grow more and more and more, we've had organizations with tens of thousands of employees that have come in, right? And what happens there is those geographically diverse communities, hey, me and you are in the state of Pennsylvania, but we're a couple hours apart from one another.
Yeah.
If we weren't connected, then it's probably likely our paths may have never crossed. And that's the same thing, right? Think back to Lockheed Martin. We had what, 675 facilities or something like that around the globe. I made it to about 0.5% of those. And that was a lot for somebody in their 20s to be able to make a tour like that. But I loved it. That was the piece. I'm the person that would knock on the door. Hey, can I, grab 5 minutes of your time? Could we grab coffee, grab lunch? I just want to hear more. I was in sponge mode all the time. So, how are we able to leverage technology to break down those barriers, silos, gaps, and also give the opportunity for our leaders to say, hey, I'm here, I'm willing and able to help. And that's where it gets to be so tough for some of those junior to mid level leaders
Mhm.
because they think, oh my gosh, Bill's the CEO. I, maybe it's not the CEO that we reach out to, but it's somebody in the team in that organization, right? That's going up to that person. But the power for us as leaders and executives to say, hey, I enjoy taking time and developing others. You reach out, I might say, I can't do it right now, but in 3 months, 6 months, 9 months, try again. And that's a huge piece for all of our listeners to figure out how do you weave that into what we're talking about here.
Just made me think of one of the pockets of people at some of my past clients, like oil, gas, chemicals, pharma, where the technology group are typically not outgoing kinds of people, right? And their career, they're the ones that want career development the most, but they don't tell anybody until they take a quote unquote better job at a competitor. And all of that talent goes over there for a while, and then that one very smart person takes four or five with them,
Yep.
and then another smarter person comes in and goes, well, I need those four people back, and you have this uh, unbalanced economic thing going on between a couple companies, kind of like if it were permitted, which their contracts don't do it, but you'll see people from UPS going to FedEx, going to Amazon, but they always go somewhere else first because nobody wants to get sued, right? So they go over
Oh,
here for a year and then they go where they're really going. And if in my seat in the past, I get to watch that, right? Because they're not going straight over, but they're going over there. So uh, in any event, that caused me to think about those kinds of people or a legal department where they're just as excited about career development, but their personalities, unless they're a litigator, which most corporate lawyers aren't, uh, they're sitting there thinking career development, but there's your platform just hit my brain that maybe Latitude is a way for them to raise their voice through the keyboard to get connected with somebody that then gives them that skill set of communication and how to get out there and do that. So anyway, that may or may not be part of Latitude, but it just hit me that those kinds of people are usually brilliant people, and when you lose them, you immediately say, what's going on in that department if you didn't know them, or how could that happen? And I can think of my consulting days, like our data analytics people. If they came from a bigger firm, came to us, we had to really give them the bigger firm benefits until they got the family culture that we had built behind
yeah.
it, right? And the team culture.
Bill,
So
that's why this company was created to do what you just said right there. Increase the opportunities for us to have conversations, connect with others, get an idea of where and when and how we can grow and navigate these pathways of our professional journey. That's exactly it. And that's why I left my 6-figure job and great career trajectory and said, I'm moving. The first year I was in my parents' basement in Western PA as I went full time into this. That's what this is all about. And I'll add one follow on step to it that, a lot of times the organizations say, well, I don't really know if our people are, going to be about this. That's where the speaking came from. I say, hey, let's just do a workshop. Let's talk about this concept. And you know who these are usually focused on? The technical people, right? The folks that say, hey, I don't really know if I'm, if I want to do this, can I do this? A little unsure. There's some imposter syndrome sprinkled in there. And every single time, we've had success, and it's these light bulbs. I wish there was a way for us to see light bulbs going off as the the workshops, continue. We'll have to come up with a solution or an idea for that. But that's totally what it's all about. And it's particularly exciting for me coming from that technical background and instilling this hope and saying, hey, the technology can help the entire organization, but in 60 to 75 minutes, we just work with our worksheet and we get a lot done. Everybody's getting put to work whenever we dive into this together. So it doesn't have to be overly complex. We can start small.
Excellent. I don't like my interviews to be controlled by the clock, but we're coming up on that 30 plus minute mark. So, I want to thank you so much. Pathfinders literally helped me inside my family. So I would say that my son is now a user and a believer, and he loves his current job. And he changed jobs about 60 days ago. And so thank you for that. And our mutual friend, Tim Heckman, out there in Pittsburgh, kind of is Will's friend, got to you. And so I appreciate that. That's how we got connected. So people connecting with people isn't a bad thing. And I guess I would consider Tim to be one of those highly technical people as I think about his background and his growing up. But he also was a big time basketball player. So we'll give him that as well. So my challenge to the audience of CEOs and professional directors is, as a leader, are you truly developing leaders? And I would say that you just heard a quick way to interact with Pete and Pete's team to begin that cycle if you haven't. And what I would tell you, when I got a demo, because I don't like to have content partners that I don't understand what they're doing, when I got the demo of Latitude, I could see where if I would have had that 15 years ago, I would have been able to develop the leadership teams of global consulting firms and at least 10% of the time of the, just 10 times faster and at the depth where the individual realized what we were doing for them. Because sometimes we're developing people, the current CEO of my past company, we had to tell them, we're developing you to be the CEO of the company when we sell it. And then naturally buyers got involved and that didn't happen right away. But he held on, put his seatbelt on, and now he got the job we thought he should always have, right? So those are good things. But those, how would you get a copy of Pathfinders? Where do they start to find that?
Right on Amazon, and
Okay.
I'll hold a QR code up there
Perfect. Even
for
your phone
people
number.
to
Perfect. Yeah.
pause. Yeah, I guess there's my phone number too if you need to get a hold of me.
Yep.
But there
Excellent.
it is. And I want to just do two quick final things. I'm going to answer that question that we talked about off stage before
I
the,
apologize.
the
Yep.
recording started here. But maybe some of the things that we talked about here and we shared, you're like, oh my gosh, I'm overwhelmed. Well, just think about these couple of phases that are already in your employment life cycle. During onboarding and new employee orientation, could they potentially have a copy of that book so that we're giving them the tools to succeed? How are we going through those first year stay interviews and manager one-on-ones, coupling in the pieces of, hey, why are you working here? What else can we do to be helpful? What does your career map look like? How is your personal board of advisors coming through? And then when somebody gets promoted into a new role, how do we refresh each of those items? What are we doing for January, which is National Mentoring Month? Right? What kind of things are we say, hey, here's what it means to be a mentor. Here's what it means to be a mentee. And here's the stuff not to do. Putting simple playbooks together along the way. And then in succession planning, how can we leverage this modality methodology to proactively address this piece of succession planning? So if you're doing any of those kinds of things, which I think just about every organization is in some capacity, right? Then that's how we can incorporate and integrate to the existing flow.
Not investing in your people is eating your EBITDA for lunch. So you got to invest in your people. But so to get a hold of Pete, you would be able to find him most easily at LinkedIn. He's Pete Schramm, SCHRAMM. He just gave us his phone number. He gave us a QR code, 724-841-4096. And we'll make sure in the recording we get a little thumbnail back there that has all that on there as well. And Pete, it's been a pleasure to learn more about Pathfinders and Latitude today. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Bill. Thanks everybody for listening. Make sure you go over and like this and add a comment so that Bill's community can continue to grow. And these helpful kinds of videos are able to reach further and a little bit wider. Team's doing great work. Thanks again, Bill, and everybody else that's making this possible.
Thank you.